hello and welcome to round 7 of the Automobilista Australia Formula 3 Development Series. We are from Kansai. Unfortunately, haven't been able to get the stream going as early as I would have liked. Had some technical issues with OBS, but here we are. 7th round of the championship. Haven't streamed this on this channel for a while, and we have raced the past couple rounds due to numbers. And as you can see, Brendon Ross there putting it on provisional pole 57.7. Ricky Slick 4/10 back, who had been struggling in practice, but he's been able to help a fan of his that was trying to bring a crossbow, for God knows whatever reason, into the grandstands, but he's managed to sort that out after his fan base were escorted out. Due to one fan, yes, wanting to carry a crossbow in, but he sorted that out. He's got his fans in. And 58.2 for Ricky Slick. So you see Brendon Ross chucking in the grass there. But that is qualifying. Not a very big grid, unfortunately. But just cut away. Obviously, looks like everybody has set a lap, and it's got to the warm-up session. So I'll just go over the qualifying session for you. Or at least the positions on the grid. We have 7 cars this evening, so we've got Brendon Ross will start from pole. Ricky Slick in 2nd place. Termo will start 3rd. Steve Bolger 4th. Rudy in 5th. Wayne Whitmore down in 6th place, so he mucked up his qualifying lap. And then we have Brownie down in 7th. And Brownie, by the way, he won the last race out, the 3rd race at Silverstone. Friday here. So well done, Brownie, for picking up the win there. Anyway, we shall unfortunately take a short break as I have to conduct the driver's briefing, but we shall be back for some action around Kansai shortly. Alrighty, and welcome back. Got about 2 minutes left in the warm-up session, so that gives us just enough time to go over the championship standings. Got a little bit to go over. Had quite a number of rounds that we have missed and that have gone by. So there it is on your screen. So that is after round 6. And we've got Ricky Slick on 374 points compared to Brendon Ross's 295. If Ricky Slick manages to pretty much hold station in the championship, he will take the title. Let me just do a bit of quick maths and just see how many points he needs from this round to clinch it. So he's 99. Sorry, that can't be right. Yeah, so a 79 point gap between Ricky Slick and Brendon Ross. There's 75 points available per race weekend, and this is the penultimate round. So Ricky Slick, if he manages to not lose any more than 4 points this weekend to Brendon Ross, he will be the champion. So all he needs to do really is just finish just behind, or pretty much just around where Brendon Ross is, and perhaps in front of him for a race or two, and he will win the title. Then we've got Luke Joyner there, 241. He's got Termo right behind him. Luke Joyner not present tonight, so looks like Turmeric will jump up to third in the championship, which is a bit of a shame because Luke's been quite consistent throughout this series. And we have Wayne Whitmore on 226, who's looking quite handy in practice, but obviously he messed up his qualifying lap, so he's starting, I believe, 6th on the grid this evening. Glenn Miles on 105, he's not here this evening. I believe he'd finished just about every race up until the last round, so a bit disappointing to sort of end that streak, but he's on 105, and River Whisper on 100, who is not here this evening. Then we have Brownie, winner last time out in the final race at Silverstone. He's on 99 points, and Cracker on 95. With Cracker not here, River Whisper not here, neither Glenn Miles or Luke Joyner. Anyway, it has ticked over to the race session. But just waiting for the drivers to form up onto the grid. Do apologise for this silence just here on my own this evening. It isn't a very big grid. Did think about racing myself, but I thought better put a stream up for these guys. Has been a couple of rounds since we've done it, plus there is a couple of rounds left in the championship, and there's the championship could be decided this evening, so might as well stream it. Alright, and the formation lap is underway. That is your field right there. Not a very big one, but hopefully it's going to be a nice and competitive race. So, there is Brendon Ross starting from pole position, sending his lap right at the death there to take pole position. Behind him, the Alabama native fan favourite Ricky Slick, starting alongside him on the front row and championship leader. And then behind him we have Termo starting from third. Steve Bolger alongside him on the second row. And then behind him in the digital, looks like digital camo anyway, is Rudy. He starts in front of Brownie, and Wayne Whitmore actually starting last, so both those guys didn't set a lap, so it sort of jumbled them up just a little bit. Because that's what AMS does, it just randomly sets it if a driver hasn't set a lap time in qualifying. So races this evening will be 9 laps, as you can see, top left-hand corner of your screen. It's a fairly long lap for these cars. 5.81 kilometres. Even in a Formula 1 car, it is a fairly long lap, even though we have seen lap times tumble in recent years and get underneath the 1 minute 30 mark. It's hard to believe that back in like 1996, 1997, they're doing 1 minute 39 was a good lap. 1 minute 40 was a very good lap. I believe the pole time, in fact, was in that region. And then 20 years later, and they're 10 seconds plus faster. Quite incredible. But it's a Formula 3 car though. They're good 30 seconds off. Anyway, just about to form up onto the grid now. Brendon Ross needs to he needs to pretty much win out if he wants to take the title. Win out, or hope Ricky Slick has a couple DNFs and he can claw his way back throughout. But yeah, he will have to win out. It will be difficult otherwise. Five lights. Away we go. It was either a jump start or a fantastic start. It doesn't look like it is a penalty. So Termo absolutely gunned it. Timed his start to perfection, and he jumps into the lead. And it looks like Steve Bolger's got the jump on Ricky Slick. But Slick trying to go around the outside at turn 3. That's ambitious. But Bolger holds on. But yeah, what a fantastic start from Termo. Timed it. I don't think he could have timed it any better. It looked like a jump start to the naked eye. But obviously he's just nailed it absolutely perfectly. Just shades of, I think it was Bottas, Valtteri Bottas, I think it was at Russia one year. Where he got it, it looked like, or Spain, where it looked like he jumped the start, but he'd actually just timed it to perfection. That said though, he's going to have to fend off Brendon Ross, who's right there in his slipstream, but Ross is going to have to contend with the dirty air behind them. Bit of a lock up for Steve Bolger. And Ricky Slick has got Brownie all over the back of him. Wayne Whitmore's moved up one spot as, we got Rudy's had a spin at Digna too there. We'll just have a look and see what's he done here. On the curb, not carrying enough speed, and round he goes, and around he goes again. And he's avoided the wall, and thankfully he hasn't beached on either the curb or the gravel there. Back live though, and Brendon Ross has taken the lead. So we've cut to a replay, and Brendon Ross has taken the lead. But Turmeric is right there, and he will be able to have a go into the chicane. If not, he can set a run up into turn 1. If he gets a good run through the chicane. He's not had a good run through the second part of the final chicane there. The Casio triangle, it's called. At least that's what good old Wikipedia says. And Ross trying to pull out of the slipstream, but doesn't really need to because he's got a significant lead. And that is the entire field bar Rudy. And I expect to see Whitmore eventually get past Brownie because Whitmore is fairly handy around here, as you saw in practice. So there it is. Ross, Termo, Bolger, Slick, Brownie and Whitmore all tightly packed together, it must be said, but Brendon Ross is just eking away now from Termo. He's doing what he has to if he wants to stay alive in this championship, is Brendon Ross. So yeah, he's a good 1.4 seconds now in front of Termo. Ricky Slick stuck behind Steve Bolger, and Bolger now he's closing up onto the back of Termo. So these guys are starting to form a little bit of a battle pack now. Whitmore looks like he's made a mistake going by the timing screen on the left-hand side. They're 2.6 behind Ricky Slick, and he was closer than that at the start of the lap. So he's made a mistake through the first sector there. But we continue to ride on board. Ricky Slick as Steve Bolger runs a little bit wide, and Slick's got nowhere to go. Bolger's, well, after getting knocked from Ricky Slick, he was able to keep going, but fortunately Ricky Slick nowhere to go there. Wouldn't have been able to brake, turn or anything to avoid that. Hopefully he's not got any kind of severe damage, but so frustrating from the Confederate driver. Doesn't look like he's got too much significant damage. Right on board down the main straight to see if he has got any suspension damage. It doesn't look like he's got much, but still he will be frustrated. But he's still got time to catch up to the back of Wayne Whitmore at least. But oh, there goes Bolger. He's gone round. And Ricky Slick will be having a bit of a chuckle, but at the same time he'll be like, why couldn't you do that earlier and away from me? So that moves Steve Bolger now down to P6, Brownie up to P5, Ricky Slick up to P4 now, and Whitmore now up 4 spots into P3, but he's got 3.7 seconds to Termo in front. In fact, he lost a little bit of time to Termo on that last lap. Now, race leader Brendon Ross, 57.8 on that last lap, but 59.2 for Termo, and all other drivers above 2 minutes. You see, Whitmore didn't really have too much to contend with, 2 minute 0.6. And then Ricky Slick obviously caught up in Steve Bolger's spin, 2:04. Steve Bolger 2 minutes due to that spin. Brownie 2:06 and Rudy 2:04.4. On this lap though, Whitmore purple in the first sector, 47.2, 3 tenths faster than our race lead and 4 tenths faster than Termo. They are coming up to the second split line, which is about 3/4 way down this straight, around about where Termo is there. And once again, he's gained a little bit on the leader in the middle split as well, so he's starting to find a bit of pace now. He was 2 tenths faster than Termo and 5 tenths faster than Brendon Ross in that middle sector. Still 5 laps to go, so there is time to close that gap. Now, what will the gap be as it crosses start-finish line? Loses out just a little bit to Brendon Ross, so Brendon Ross quite good in the middle sector, but Whitmore about a tenth or so, half a tenth or so faster than Termo in the final sector. Termo has done exactly what he did in practice, and done exactly what Steve Bolger did, so just right on board. Probably getting a little bit greedy through turn 1, and once you get on the brakes, unsettling the rear. Yeah, it just hasn't straightened the wheel enough. The rear end's got a little bit too light, and around he goes, and there goes Ricky Slick and Wayne Whitmore. But he is still in 4th place. In fact, Steve Bolger had Brownie right behind him, but looks like Brownie's had an incident as well. Yep, he's had a spin coming out of turn 2. So it's all happening. And now we've got Ricky Slick right behind Wayne Whitmore. So Whitmore's made a mistake, and now he's right behind Whitmore. He's had a half little spin there at the hairpin, and Ricky Slick probably shades of Steve Bolger circa 2 laps ago. Probably got flashbacks. But Slick doing what he needs to do to fight back and not lose out too many points to Brendon Ross. good run now coming to 130R. But doesn't want to make the move here. It is a flat out corner and you really need to be side by side to make the move stick. He's not going to do it into the final chicane either. It looks like he's going to try and make the move into turn 1. And there it is, pulls out from the slipstream up the inside. Whitmore going to try and hold on around the outside. It's going to try and hold it, but he has to eventually cede position to Ricky Slick. So Ricky Slick now up into P2 where he started, but it's been a long journey to get his way back there after Termo scythed his way into the lead off the start with a cracking start. And Steve Bolger taking advantage as well into the opening corner to get past Ricky Slick, and that dropped him down a couple spots into P4. Whitmore pushing very hard in the dirty air. Running very wide, but Slick always ran a little bit wide there, and he's into the barrier. So all that hard work to get back up to P2, and he's thrown it away a couple corners later. That's it though, he hasn't lost too much time to Termo and Whitmore though. He's still within striking distance. We'll just right on board actually, see what he's done here. Yeah, so he's in fact, we'll just go on board and watch in slow-mo and see what he's done. So his rear end has stepped out about here. He should have straightened his steering wheel a little bit more while he's got on the power at the same time, but he's not done that. So the rear end is still a little bit light, and then he's clipped the curb there, and it's just sent it around as it was just a little bit unsettled. And then, thankfully, not too badly damaged, and he's able to continue. In front, though, he's got a perfect view to watch the Termo-Whitmore battle. So you see Whitmore lock up into the Casio chicane. While this is going on, Brendon Ross is laughing to himself. Good 10.8 second buffer. In fact, make it 10.9. All he has to do really is just keep it on the black stuff, and he'll take race 1 here. But there's still a couple races to go though. But he's doing what he needs to keep his championship hopes alive, or at least to delay Ricky Slick's championship celebrations. And so far on this lap, more just eking away from Termo. We're battling for position, but Whitmore's able to get the gap out to a second. And now Ricky Slick's starting to close on Termo a little bit. In fact, quite a bit. That lockup looked like it cost Termo a little bit of time, because now it looks like Ricky Slick is in slipstream distance, but Ricky Slick will be getting a bit of aero wash off the front, as you can see in the back there. Just running a little bit wide there, first part of spoon. For those that don't know, aero wash is when the disturbed air from the car in front causes the front end of the car to not pick up the air as cleanly as what the car's designed for, and it makes the front end of the car push and understeer because it's not picking up the air that it is designed for. As you see, a late braking move from Ricky Slick, shades of Prost and Senna. And so he gets it done. Termo had to just looks like he, I don't know if he just outbroke himself or just turned in too early there, but cut along the inside of the corner. But a fantastic move there from Ricky Slick. He come from a long way back, made it late, made the move late, but got the job done. In fact, we'll ride on board Ricky Slick as it happened. So coming through 130R, as you can see, it's a long way back. Looks like Termo just broke at 110 metres. Ricky Slick braking at about 95. Was able to pull it up and got the job done in his rust bucket. But, oh, he's dropped behind Termo again, so cut to a replay and he's made a mistake. So let's have a look and see. Oh, he's too hot. Too hot at turn 1 and 2. And he's on the marbles there, and he ran wide at 2 again. And Termo's like, well, I'll take that back. Thank you very much. And while this is going on, it's allowing Whitmore to get away. He set a 58.8 on that last lap compared to a 2:01.0 and a 1:59.6 for these two. Race leader, Brendon Ross, at 2:07. Steve Bolger setting a 59.3. So Whitmore, fastest man on track last time around, so that's allowed him to sort of break away from these two. But at the same time, he's not really close enough to be a threat to Brendon Ross out in the lead. Right, we'll stick with this battle for now. It's close. It's closer than it was last time. Ricky Slick makes the move once again and gets it done. So a bit of Groundhog Day. Coming into the Casio triangle, and now down to turn 1. Termo not quite close enough for the slipstream, but Ricky Slick does try and make it hard for him. Termo just sticks to the outside. Now, this time Ricky Slick manages to get through turn 1 and 2 correctly. Now he'll be hoping to not stuff up Digna 2, and he'll be hoping to close in on Whitmore in front. Both of them setting identical final sectors of a 25.47 on that last lap. Fastest man on that last lap was actually Steve Bolger on a 59.0, just 7 tenths faster than Wayne Whitmore, who was second fastest, and a good 1.7 faster than our race leader, and 1.3 faster than Termo in front of him. So if he keeps pushing at that pace, and a mistake or two from Termo, he might be able to put Termo under a bit more out of pressure, but so Ricky Slick lights it up out of the hairpin. But yeah, probably not enough time for Steve Bolger to really move up a position without a mistake though. Obviously, as you can see on your screen, just recap through the current standings with just about a lap to go. We've got Brendon Ross comfortably out in the lead. He's just cruising at the moment. He's not pushing at all. He's probably second and a half off his ultimate pace. Then we've got Wayne Whitmore in second. He's been up and down, as has Ricky Slick in third place, and Termo. All three of those guys have been up and down, making mistakes here and there to allow each other up and down the spots. And then we've got Steve Bolger in P5. So he had those the half spin that would have been a spin, but had Ricky Slick save him. It unfortunately compromised Ricky Slick at the exit of Spoon, and then half a lap later here at turn 2 he lost the rear end and had a spin, and that dropped him down to where he is there. And they got Brownie constantly in the 2 minute mark. He's very close to his personal best, and he's been around that that 2 minute 5 or 2 minute 0.5, 2 minute 4.4 and 2 minute 0.6 range for quite a lot of this race. So he's not the quickest out there, but his consistency is actually quite good, is Brownie. So that's probably why he won that final race that at Silverstone last time out. Even though he wasn't the fastest out there, it looked like a few runners had some issues. He did make a mistake and took a well-deserved win. So well done Brownie on that one. And then we've got Rudy out there, long way behind in P7. So he hasn't had much practice time. He jumped in very late with at 10-15 minutes left in practice. He was going to commentate, but with only 6 cars out there, wasn't a good idea. So he sent him out there for a race, and he's down there at 7th place at the moment. But all runners are still out there, which is good. Oh, and we've had Whitmore's dropped off. He was 3 seconds in front of Ricky Slick, but now Ricky Slick making a move into 130R on the final lap of the race. It is a flat-out corner. Takes a bit of curve, very risky, but he gets it done. Now Whitmore's going to try and go around the outside at the chicane. He can't do it. Now it's going to try and get the switchback and get the long run, as Brendon Ross will take race 1. But who will take second place? It will be Ricky Slick. So Ricky Slick does recover to finish where he started, but it was a very long journey. It was a roller coaster ride in the end. Whitmore does recover from starting at the back to finish in P3. But he'll be kicking himself because he probably should have had a comfortable second in the end. And then we have Termo himself, probably a little bit annoyed with himself after having an absolute blinding run off the start. Made a couple little errors that dropped him down to P4. So we see Termo and Whitmore collide. And then we've got Steve Bolger. Again, he'll be probably a bit frustrated with himself as well. Down in P5. Set himself up nicely early on in the race, but that spin at the Exeter Spoon and at turn 2 costing him dearly in the end. Then we have Brownie P6 and Rudy going off-road and into the barrier will finish in P7. So that's race 1 done and dusted. But we shall be back for another qualifying session shortly, and then race 2 and 3 after that. So stick around. All right, and welcome back. Just about to get qualifying 2 underway, and this will sort out not only the grid for race 2, but also the reverse grid for race 3. And in this one, we had a late joiner. Luke Joyner has jumped in, and he'll try and hold on in the championship, or retake, I think, 3rd place in the championship. So Termo would have jumped up in front of him. So Termo picked up 14 points, and I do believe he was about 10 or so points behind him. No, in fact, he was 6 points behind him, so he will have a gap. And as you can see on your screen, drivers are very eager to get out there and set a qualifying lap. It's a 10-minute session with Super Pole / shootout format. 1 lap, hot lap. As you can see, Termo, Steve Bolger and Brownie all pretty much leaving as soon as the light went green, having a bit of a queue. Just have a look around, and we've got Luke Joyner out there. He'll be setting his first lap, so I don't believe he's done any practice, but he's going to jump out there and give it a crack, which is good to see. For those that are around at Automobilista Australia, feel free to download the mod and jump in and have a go. And so, yeah, Wayne Whitmore also out there on circuit at the moment. He'll be hoping to rectify not being able to set a lap time in qualifying 1. And just a reminder that a driver does have to set a lap time to be eligible for the reverse grid. Otherwise, he'll start at the back, where he didn't set a lap time if another driver also wasn't able to set a lap time for whatever reason. Anyway, all the drivers were out there pushing, and now they're all out there just warming their tyres. Or just slowing down, except for Luke Joyner. He's out there going flat out, so we'll stick with him. Running through drivers that are warming up, which is a bit dangerous. Seen in Formula 1 over the years, and in F2 and the like, accidents and near accidents almost occurring as drivers slow down to try and cool their tyres down on cool down laps, or to warm their tyres up for a qualifying lap, and another driver out there trying to set a lap time or just drive as fast as he can. Thankfully, Luke Joyner able to get through there with no issue. He's been able to he hasn't set a lap time, but he's able to navigate the track, looks like fairly comfortably, so hopefully he's fairly competitive out there, although that said he did outbrake himself there at the Casio Triangle Chicane. And he'll be the first one to set a lap time, or at least the first one to start a lap time, as he crosses the start finish line. And then there's Termo, as you can see right there in the background. Well, it is ran wide there at turn 2. But that shouldn't cost him too much time in the end. Didn't have a spin, but certainly not ideal. Pushing very hard on the exits of turn 4 there. So, the exit curbing saving him, and saving on the exit there of turn 6. He's pushing very hard, using probably too much road. And you can visually see that Turmeric has closed the gap between the two. Now Digna 1. So he's attacking the track. Luke Joyner has done no practice and he's pushing as hard as he can. Very wide. Digna 2 doesn't lose the back end, but not the greatest run through the first split there. So he's about 2 seconds. Yeah, 1.3 off Termo, and Termo's running to the back of him as Joyner lost the back end coming out of the hairpin, which is very easy to do. I managed to do that in practice a couple times when I went around there, so that compromises both Termo and Luke Joyner's lap, obviously. So hopefully not too much damage for Termo there, and hopefully didn't cost him too much time, but it will cost him time nonetheless. Termo was fastest in the first split, so he was 2 tenths up, or he was 2 tenths up over Steve Bolger, who set a 47.9 compared to a 47.7, but now Wayne Whitmore fastest in the first sector, 47.593. got a yellow flag out there at the on chicane there. See, right on board Termo. You can hear a car there off in the distance. So about to cross the line. Not going to be a great lap. 2:04. See, did get caught up with Luke Joyner. He's about to cross the line himself. 2:10. So fairway off the pace. Bulger now up into P1. 57.9. Not the worst lap, but not the greatest either. Now, where is Wayne Whitmore? He's just coming out of the Casio triangle. And down the hill towards turn 1 and towards the start finish line. And he will set 58.4. So he's made a mistake there in that final sector. Yeah, he lost 0.6 of a second. So what has he done here? He's not done it at the final chicane, or if he has, it's just been through being really, really conservative. Has he done it at the exit of Spoon? Or has he done it at the hairpin? Is he had a half spin maybe? No, just really, really conservative, and Bulger able to stay in P1 for now. Got Rudy out there, only one on a timed lap at the moment. Do have Tumor out there on the circuit at the moment, but he will have to drive back to the pits, otherwise he will get disqualified. So Rudy quite a ways off in the first split. Not too bad middle sector though. He did lose time, but still not too far off. Bit of a slide there through the chicane, but gets out of it okay, and he'll set an okay lap. Should put him in front of Luke Joyner, and it does. And now we've got the big guns out there. We've got Brendon Ross and Ricky Slick both out there on the circuit. And we've got Termo parked there. Looks like he's beached at the final chicane. He's got out of being beached. And he's going to drive back into the pit lane, so probably should have just driven back into the didn't or just pressed escape anyway. Didn't really matter, but anyway. The greatest bits of camera work from our Japanese producer there, but we'll have to deal with it. In fact, we'll ride on board this lap once it starts of Brendon Ross. We'll go through the lap with you. So just coming at the exit of Spoon. Even though it counts as 2 turns, does Spoon, it really is sort of one consecutive double apex corner. It's a frustrating corner, but a rewarding one when you get it right. Alright, so we'll ride on board Brendon Ross. See how he attacks this Kansai Suzuka circuit. As you can hear, using all the revs and more, hitting the rev limiter just a little bit. Now coming into turn 1, you can take the initial part of it flat, but he lifts a little bit early and doesn't use all the road, so that compromises his line through turn 2. Now through the snake he goes, or start of the snake he goes. Turn 4 has to lift just a little bit. Turn 5, now through turn 6, down into second gear. Up into third, to fourth. Ooh, a little bit of a lift, that's compromised. It's going to cost him time there. You should be flat through that exit. It's not had a great run so far. It hasn't been a good first split. Hasn't been the worst, but he's certainly left a bit of time on the table. He's up by 0.6, but gotta say, could be by a bit more. You don't lose it on the exit of the hairpin. He has to fight it just a little bit, but won't lose any time from that. We're coming up to Spoon. This long right-hander does actually count as a corner. But it's flat out in any car you drive. So it's first part of Spoon. Now the second part. Just had to feather the throttle just a little bit. But not a bad run though. Brendon Ross 47.3 in the first sector, 47.5 for Ricky Slick. And across the split line, Brendon Ross lost a bit of time to Steve Bolger in the middle sector, about 3/4 of a tenth slower. Now the final chicane, he's outbroke himself there. So that would have cost him a little bit more time, but he should have enough time in the bag to take pole position. But we shall see. No! So he lost 6/10 of a second in the final sector, and it's Ricky Slick instead who steals it. So Ricky Slick doing his championship chances a world of good with that complete lap there, setting a purple middle sector, 45.4 compared to 45.607 of Steve Bolger and a 45.684 for Brendon Ross. But that final sector, just for comparison, 24.404 for Ricky Slick, Steve Bolger 24.391, the fastest man in the final sector, and then Brendon Ross, just for comparison, 25.006. That's what that, obviously him outbreak himself, that's what it cost him. Cost him quite a bit. So, important for Ricky Slick and his championship chances. He'll be on pole for race 2, and he'll start at the back for race 3. Alright, so we are in the warm-up session, and drivers, Lovejoy in particular, getting out there, getting amongst it, getting as much practice as he can get in before he obviously starts in his first race of the evening. So he didn't take part in race 1 or practice or qualifying 1. So he's really his qualifying lap was his first lap of the circuit. And now he's able to get a bit of practice in. It's still, as you can see, 7.5 minutes until this session is over, and we tick over to race 2. In fact, we might cut it short this session. Give obviously Luke a lap or two to sort of get his bearings, but might just skip it ahead if the drivers do want. So just to go over championship standings pre-round, it was 374 plays, 295. But after that last race, see Ricky Slick adds 20 points, so he'll move to 394 points, while Brendon Ross moves to 320. So the gap is 74 points, with race 2, race 3 this evening to play out, as well as the 3 races at the final round of the championship also to deal with, which is at Interlagos on July 8. So 5 races still in effect, 125 points to play. But if Ricky Slick is able to convert his pole position into a victory, it will be very, very difficult. With only 100 points on offer in the remaining 4 races for Brendon Ross to claim the title. He'll need a Kimi Raikkonen kind of miracle. There's no pit lanes for Ricky Slick to get beached in, and there's no weather to run amok either, so he's going to have to rely on almost tragic like problems to strike Ricky Slick. That said though, we have seen funny things in motorsport and in sim racing, so you just never know. Got a bit more also out there on the circuit at the moment. Joiner 201.8. Just trying to figure out if that is his personal best. Yep, that is his personal best, so he did do better than his qualifying lap. Fastest lap of the evening set by Ricky Slick, 57.4. So that was the fastest lap of the evening. Did it at a crucial time as well in qualifying 2 there. So he'll start race number 2 from pole position, and he'll start the final race of the evening from P8 on the grid. Join out another 2/10 up, but he'll still probably want to find another second or so to sort of challenge around about where Brownie is. Still, he's looking quite comfortable out there, though it has to be said, does Luke Joyner hasn't really made too many mistakes. 201.3, so he found a bit more time in the final sector as well. Was just prompting the drivers if they did want to move the session forward, but haven't heard too many responses just yet, so just do apologise for being a little bit quiet here on stream. Have gone through obviously the championship implications with you. There's not really too much to go over. Do have Wayne Whitmore out there on the circuit at the moment. He's about to go, barring mistake, faster than Luke Joyner. But see, just to recap, I guess, what's been going on at Automobilista Australia. Obviously, last night we had the GT3 World Challenge, at least the first season of the GT3 World Challenge at AMSOZ concluded last night, with myself, Lewis Wedding, taking victory. Then we had Steve Bolger, who had his best run, I think, ever at AMSOZ, besides Monday night's Rookie Cup rounds, where he managed to jump onto the podium. He had a fantastic run. Obviously, he got this strategy perfectly right. He drove to a fuel number as opposed to pushing for the entire race. Drove it like an endurance race, he said, to paraphrase. And yeah, his best result in the GT3s. Was able to take quite a comfortable P2 in the end. Brenton Foley finishing off in P3. So that concluded the GT3 World Challenge, at least for this season. There will be another season coming up in a month and a half or so. Probably more towards the month and a half. Just as we go through and test all the cars and go through everything. But I can obviously talk about some of the I can talk about the tracks that will be out on the calendar for next season. Obviously, we do have an Australian circuit this time around, and we have Eastern Creek out there. So we've got Sydney Motorsport Park, as it's also known as. Also got Brands Hatch, the longer version of it. And we've also got Goiânia, which at TCC, and I do believe it was in a Porsche Cup. I think the first season, it was one of the first races of the Porsche Cup, one of the first races, in fact, at AMSOZ. And then we also have Donington. Fuji makes a return, as does Spa. And then we have Jerez for its first time on the calendar, and Hockenheim, the current modern day layout, not the 1980s or 1990s version, but yeah, the modern Hockenheim. So that will be a very interesting season. We've got long Grand Prix style circuits, and then we've got shorter ones shorter and smaller ones like Zandvoort, Goiânia, and Sydney Motorsport Park. And even though Jerez was as well, and Brands Hatch too. So do have those smaller circuits. And we've got Jerez, which is sort of in between the two. Anyway, we've ticked over to the race session. Just waiting for Ricky Slick to form up onto the grid, but he wants to take his time. And there he is, onto the grid very, very late. But away we go for the formation lap of race 2 of round 7 of the Automobilista Australia Formula 3 Development Series here at Kansai Suzuka circuit. But just every time we've ran here in the past in various other series, when a broadcast has been put up, usually the videos have actually been struck. For whatever reason, FOM or Liberty Media always seems to strike it whenever we run at this circuit. Obviously, it doesn't. Its algorithm must pick up a same camera view and make it look like we're ripping a Formula 1 Grand Prix or something. But as you can see, is Automobilista, and it is not the case. But it would not surprise me if that happens once again. So that's happened to Stairs, and it's happened to Nether's channels, as well as when we ran the Rookie Cup and the Porsches here last, the last Porsche series, and the the last F3 series in the Formula Trainers. Anyway, halfway through the formation lap, and as you can see, Ricky Slick will start on pole position after setting the best lap of the weekend, and setting a very, very quick middle sector to steal it at the death. Steve Bolger is looking the goods, although Brendon Ross was probably giving him a little bit of pause for thought, but then Ricky Slick put in a fantastic middle sector, a decent final sector, and Ross blew it at the end, so that allowed Steve Bolger to hold on to P2. And then we have Brendon Ross, who was looking the goods for pole position. His middle sector wasn't the greatest. Well, it was very, very good, but it wasn't quite as good as Ricky Slick's, and then he obviously locked up into the Casio triangle, or the final chicane there, so that dropped him from a potential pole position down into third place. And behind him we got Wayne Whitmore in fourth place in the sort of 2017 spec Renault Formula 1 kind of livery there. See, they are Renault backed. Behind him, Brownie in the Dan Tictum / Red Bull car. And for those wondering, Dan Tictum is one of the biggest douchebags in sport. He under safety car conditions, he deliberately passed a couple cars and drove into another car and had a ban for I think a year or two. But people still think he's good, and he's matured, which he hasn't. So how he hasn't got a permanent ban from motorsport, I'll never know, but that's Dan Tictum. Not Brownie. Brownie's alright. He's good. Don't know much about Brownie, but he's infinitely better guy than Dan Tictum. Anyway, he starts fifth. Then we have Termo, who'll be a bit frustrated with his qualifying effort. Obviously, he did unfortunately run into Luke Joyner. But anyway, Rudy will start P7, and Luke Joyner, a late joiner, will start in last and 8th place. Anyway, 4 lights, 5 lights. Away we go. Ricky Slick doesn't get a great start. Bolger gets a good start. Bolger will jump into the lead, and Brendon Ross will have a look on the inside of Ricky Slick into turn 1. He's not going to be close enough. But Bolger into the lead. Slick trying to make a move into turn 2. He gets him on the switchback. It was, I have to say, is good driving from Steve Bolger not to turn in on him, but very, very aggressive from Ricky Slick. And Ricky Slick into the lead. Brendon Ross, though, a bit more aggressive again, nudging Steve Bolger out of the way. So Bolger's great start ruined. But Turmo, he's had a good start. He's up 2 spots. He's jumped in front of Brownie. He hasn't moved anywhere, but Wayne Whitmore, he's jumped down, or fallen down 2 spots, I should say, into 6th place. Rudy is in 7th, and Luke Joyner in 8th. So, there it is, the 2 championship protagonists. Ricky Slick, Brendon Ross. Then we've got Steve Bolger, Termo, Brownie, Whitmore, Rudy, and Luke Joyner. Oh, and it sounded like we had a car going off there. And yep, there he is. That is Luke Joyner. So Luke Joyner making a mistake there at the hairpin. We've got Brendon Ross having a look at Ricky Slick. So Brendon Ross looking very racy at the moment. Of course, he pretty much needs to win out to have any kind of chance to win the championship. He's right there, putting pressure on Ricky Slick towards the end of this first lap. There's a bit of a lock up there for Ricky Slick to the Casio triangle. But he's had a good run for the chicane, has Ricky Slick. Brendon Ross has dropped back just a little bit behind them though. Good run out of the chicane for Termo. And he was going to make a run. It looked like it, but he's lifted. In fact, it looks like he might even be giving Steve Bolger a bit of a bump draft actually. I think he's given him a bump draft down the straight, and in fact Bolger very quick through turn 1 and 2 there, but he hasn't had a good exit. But they have closed up onto the back of Brendon Ross just a little bit, and they're looking to make it a 4-car train as opposed to just Ricky Slick and Brendon Ross battling at the back. Looks like we've had Rudy's had a spin there at turn 2. Let's have a look on the replay and see how he's managed that. Oh, he's just run over the outside of the curb there, and he's on that AstroTurf, which doesn't have as much grip. You still do have grip, but you don't have as much grip on that AstroTurf. And he's gone round there, so that's moved Luke Joyner up into 7th place. Back at the front though And it is Ricky Slick half a second in front of Brendon Ross. And then they've got 1.6 or 1.5. Yeah, well, there's 1.6 seconds between Ricky Slick and Steve Bolger, which is the third place driver. And Termo's half a second behind him. It looks like Ricky Slick's just a little bit faster in that first sector this time around, but his middle sector hasn't been great. And Brendon Ross now, the exit of Spoon, has got a good run. And will he make the move? He's having a look into 130R, but backs out of it. Looks like he's going to try and make his move into the final chicane or into turn 1. No, decides better of it at the Casio triangle, but another lock up from Ricky Slick and Ross himself wide again. Oh, and it looks like a couple of cars wide there. Brownie's cut the chicane massively, as has Termo. So Brownie is pretty much cut the chicane and might pass Termo there. If he does do that, that will be a post-race penalty. Should he not give that position up, because looked like Brownie did cut the chicane and gained a position. Termo holds on for now. In fact, we'll have a look on the replay. As you can see, he was a good 2.5 seconds or so behind, and he's just missed the chicane and then just decided, no, I'm just going to gun it, and he was right behind Termo, who also cut the chicane. Now these guys, big battle for 4th place. Termo holding on with Brownie right behind, and then Whitmore right behind Brownie. And that's allowed Bolger just to edge up closer towards Brendon Ross. The gap was just about a second, and that's 0.7 of a second, and that's obviously 2-car battle. Looks like it's going to become a 3. As you see, Brendon Ross very wide there. Exit of Digna 2. But it has given him a good run into the hairpin behind Ricky Slick. Was not quite close enough. Slick just a little bit wide, just fighting the car a little bit through the hairpin. And Brendon Ross is right there. He should be close enough to make a move into Spoon, but it would be a risky move considering how fast the entry is. He's having a look. Slick does give him the space, but Slick will have the better line for Spoon Part 2. And now Steve Bolger, he's right behind him as well. The Bolger in the slipstream of these two. Probably getting a handy double toe, in fact. We're right on board with him. Looks like Ricky Slick in front just lifting off. He's got that aero wash, almost ran over that curve there, which is probably don't want to do. Slick having a look up the inside and then moving back. And these three covered by cigarette paper at the moment. And looking at lifetime, Whitmore has jumped in front of Brownie and Termo. So he's now up into P4. And now we've got the old F3 slipstream train going. As we see Brendon Ross move the inside of the road to try and hold Ricky Slick at bay. As you see, Bolger very wide, pushing very hard at turn 1 and 2. He has gained a little bit of time. Looked like he's going to run over the exit curbing there, but he's managed to hold on. And these three continue to duke it out. And yeah, Whitmore now is on his own. And a couple second gap over Termo. Looks like Brownie recovering from a spin there at turn 2. He was behind those two, so he looked like he'd made a mistake prior to the final chicane there. But we'll just have a look and see what he's managed to do. Yeah, he's just a bit of a twitch on at turn 1. No, he almost lost at turn 2. Did the old accelerate brake trick, I reckon. And it saved him there, because if he didn't do it, he would have been in the barrier big time. But thankfully for us, he's kept it going. At the front, though, Steve Bolger's dropped a little bit of time. Front two are still fairly close together, but yeah, Bolger has dropped a bit of time, so I'll just have a look and see. No, nothing there. So it must have been prior to that. Anyway, looks like we got a change for the lead. Once again, we go to a replay and there's a change for the lead. It's Ricky Slick into the lead for now, but Brendon Ross is right there. Possibly a little bit of a bump draft going on there, but very, very close between these two. And once again, another look up for Ricky Slick into the final chicane there. He'll probably be driving on a 50-cent piece there. And Ross was close enough to have a very good run into turn 1, but brake traction has allowed Ricky Slick to break away and hold on to the lead for now. And as you can see, there's Whitmore in the background. He's closing on these guys. 4.7 seconds. Was a little bit more than that at the start of the previous lap. In fact, let's look and see what our live timing says at AMSOZ. It's AMSOZ.liveracers.com/live. Yes, on that last lap, Whitmore 58.9 compared to 59.6 of Bolger and 59.2 of Ross. Oh, and Ross very, very wide, almost lost the back end and into the barrier. Very similar to what Ricky Slick did in race 1, but he's managed to hold it. Ricky Slick himself very wide at the exit of Digna 2 there. Both of them over the outside of the ripple strip and onto the AstroTurf, which is not where you want to be, but that's how hard these guys are driving out there. There is a title up for grabs. It's right there. Ricky Slick's got one hand on the cup, and Brendon Ross is trying to swat his hand away, at least for another couple races. In the background, Steve Bolger, he's just trying to get a piece of Mr. Race Win here. Yeah, 47.6 in the first sector for Slick, 47.8 in the middle sector, in the first sector for Ross, but the middle sector much better for Brendon Ross, and he's had a good run into 130R and into the final chicane, but not close enough to get a move done, or he's just trying to save it till turn 1. He's got a better exit out of the final chicane this time, so he might be close enough towards the end of the straight, but I don't think he will be. As you see, Brendon Ross fastest lap of the race, 58.2. Ricky Slick set his personal best in the last lap at 58.6, but Steve Bolger 58.4 with Whitmore 59.8. So these front two front three I should say, just in a league of their own. Or at least at the moment, Wayne Whitmore just not being able to extract that little bit of extra pace, but these front three are very, very quick at the moment. A little bit of a twitch there for Brendon Ross. Dunlop. It was a lot of curb at Digna 1. He might even pick up a track cut for that. We're right on board and see if it gives him a split time. It'll give him a gap time to obviously Ricky Slick in front of him, but no, it did give him a split time according to Live Racers. So it wasn't a track cut, but I don't think you want to take the corner like that too often, especially in these things, which if you do hit a curve the wrong way, they do spit you in all kinds of directions. But it didn't cost him this time, and if he does it again, it might. That's it though, once again, he's faster through this middle sector at the moment, is Brendon Ross. It's just in that first sector, so Ricky Slick seems to just put a little bit of time on Brendon Ross. It's close this time into 130R is Brendon Ross, but he will have the slipstream through 130R, and it will draw him a little bit closer for the final chicane. Really hoping for a good run. Casio triangle here. Another lock up again for Ricky Slick on the unweighted inside tyre. Once again, another slide on the exit for Brendon Ross. He's a bit closer though than what he was, or perhaps a metre or two closer than what he was last time out, but that momentum, that slide costing him dearly. He's going to have to endure another lap behind Ricky Slick. Oh, and another slide exit of turn 2, so Ross just over driving a little bit at the moment. Probably just needs to pull himself away the loud pedal just a little bit, just to be a little bit more gentle with it. Otherwise he'll find himself spinning. Oh, and Ricky Slick very, very wide there at Dunlop. Almost looked like he's going to go over that ripple strip and down the alternate version of the track, but held on. Big lock up for Brendon Ross at Digna 2, but he's had a good run through there, and he's quite a bit closer, 0.4 of a second. Be less than that now at the hairpin, but he's had a bit of a slider, but he's managed to save it again. He is starting to overdrive. His rear tyre's probably a little bit worn, maybe even a little bit overheated after these repeated slides, and it's not going to help him because he's going to need those rear tyres just to give him that extra bit of traction coming out of that final chicane if he really wants to get that pass done on Ricky Slick, because at the moment he hasn't been quite close enough to make the move into the final chicane, so he's going to need that run leading up to it and then out of it if he wants to get that pass done for the lead and to close just a little bit more on Ricky Slick in the championship. Behind them though, Bolger hasn't had a good first sector, 48.5 compared to 47.7 and 47.8 from Slick and Ross respectively. And again, slower in the middle sector, so perhaps Steve Bolger's tyres just going off just a little bit. And we do have a car, looks like going through the pit lane. That's Brownie. So Brownie going a lap down and letting Steve Bolger go, thankfully. Oh, and we've had Ricky Slick wide at turn 1, between turn 1 and 2 there, and Brendon Ross into the lead. So let's just have a look and see. He had built up a little bit of a gap over Brendon Ross towards the end of that last lap, and he's just thrown it all away and lost the lead. So what has he done? Just outbroke himself, or has he lost the back end? Yeah, he's just come in too hot over the ripple strip, and he's had to unwind the steering wheel. Hasn't spun it coming back on though. But he's probably looks like he's made another mistake in the first split, at least a little one anyway, because he's actually quite a ways behind Brendon Ross now. So Brendon Ross will close that gap in the championship once again from 74 points to 69. But if Ricky Slick does win this race, well, all Ricky Slick needs, if he leaves this round with 70, it will be 75 points or more lead, he will win the championship. So if he does win this race and Brendon Ross is second, the gap would move back out to 79 points. But as it stands with Brendon Ross now leading, the gap will be cut from 74 points to 69. So he'll need at least one race. Bolger outbrakes himself just a little bit at the final chicane there, so that might end his chances for a move up into P2. But yeah, as I was saying, as things stand, should Brendon Ross hold on this final lap, he'll cut the championship points down between himself and Ricky Slick from 74 to 69 points. And that will mean that the championship fight will go down to the final round. I know Ricky Slick was quite eager to have a big shindig here in Japan. And we've got a yellow flag out in the Dunlop section, and it is Rudy. He's had it off coming out of turn 6 there. We'll try and find a replay of that. Actually, he's beached. Looks like he is going to get it going. Hopefully he doesn't spit him. Oh, no, it's going to spit him straight back out. He kept his foot in the accelerator, and in fact, he's decided to retire it. But we'll have a look on the replay and see what he's managed to do here. Okay, so he's just ran a little bit wide there at turn 6. Got through the gravel trap, had a complete spin onto the grass, and then he's just gassed it up. Got back on the road, kept his foot on the accelerator, and then spun back onto the gravel trap. So very, very frustrating for Rudy. But back live now. Ricky Slick has gained a little bit on this final lap, but he's not going to be close enough. And Brendon Ross will cut the championship gap unless he makes a mistake at the final chicane here. He will cut the championship point differential between himself and Ricky Slick to 69 points. going into the final race of the evening. So, looks like he will hold on. Brendon Ross will steal it in the end. Ricky Slick led pretty much every lap, but that mistake on lap 7 costing him dearly at turn 1 and 2. So, Brendon Ross takes 2 from 2. Ricky Slick second in both. Steve Bolger in 3rd place. And a bit of a distant 4th place for Wayne Whitmore in the end. And looks like Termo will finish again. He'll be quite distant, P5. Behind them, Luke Joyner. Good 27 seconds behind Termo. He'll finish in P6. And Brownie, a lap down, as we saw, has already crossed the start-finish line, and he'll finish, or has finished, in P7. Just haven't seen, no doughies just yet, so a bit disappointing from the lads. And there it is, Luke Joyner finishing in P6, but still good effort for him to show up and have a crack, which is good to see. And well, he flipped his car into the stands. In fact, we're right on board that incident. So here we go, Luke Joyner into the barrier. Bang. What a move. I give that 9.253 out of 17.5. But yeah, just to recap once again. Brendon Ross, race 2 winner. Ricky Slick in 2nd place. Steve Bolger rounding out the podium 3 seconds behind. And Wayne Whitmore in 4th place. Turbo in 5th. Luke Joyner in 6th. Brownie 7th. And Rudy DNFing right at the end there. So that was race 2. Now we'll have a short break as we sort the grid out for the final race of the evening. But we shall be back. Alright, so welcome back to race 3 of the evening. We do appreciate you guys joining us. I know those watching has jumped down from 5 to 3, but we're back once again to race for the final race of the evening. And of course, race 3 of the evening means reverse grid. So the reverse grid is set from the second qualifying session of the evening. So that means Luke Joyner will start from the front of the grid with Rudy alongside him. So drivers now warming up onto the grid. That is the entire field right there. And away they go for their formation lap for the final time here at Kansai, which definitely is on the bucket list of places that I do want to go and watch a motor race from, and that is for sure. Something tells me that these fans wouldn't be as white or this numerous for an 8-car Formula 3 race. Anyway, formation lap is underway, and it is Luke Joyner starting from pole position once again for the final race of the evening. Rudy will start alongside him at the front. These two have bolted away on the formation lap, and it's up to Termo in B3 and Whitmore, sorry, not Whitmore, he's fourth on the road to catch up, and as well as Brownie, but yes, it will be Termo starting from P3, Brownie starting in P4. So these guys think the best way to start or to warm the tyres up is to just race at race speed. But yeah, Wayne Whitmore will start in P5. Brendon Ross will start in P6 in front of his championship rival once again. Not only that, he'll have Steve Bolger in between the two of them. But we have seen Ricky Slick get some absolutely cracking starts in the past. Not so this evening. He hasn't had two good starts so far. But he'll be hoping to get it right in this final race and get him in front of, at least in front of Brendon Ross at the start of the final race here this evening. So there, towards Spoon, Luke Joyner has, well, he's absolutely gunned it. He's at racing speed. And it looks like he's going to keep going. I don't know what he's doing. I think he's just realised that, yeah, I think he's just realised that he might have even thought it was the start of the race. If not, there's a very boss way to arrive into your pit box. He's timed that to perfection, getting on the brakes there. But he'll be waiting quite a while as Ricky Slick is only now coming out of the final chicane. So all the tyre temperature that he had and brake temperature that he had would now be gone. Do apologise for the cameras. Unfortunately, the guys at Razor didn't set this track up with the greatest cameras for race starts here, so I've had to go all manual on you here. And it is Ricky Slick now up onto the grid. That is the entire field. Yeah, 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and it is go here in Kansai. And so Steve Bolger got a decent start at the back, but Turmo jumps up now into P2. He's in front of a couple guys there, and Brendon Ross already up into P3. He's going for P2, and Brownie into the back of Turmo. Don't think it caught out Turmo too much, but it did spin himself around, unfortunately. So Brownie now down at the back. Rudy, who did start at the front, down to 7th, down 5 spots already. So Ricky Slick up 2 spots past Brownie and Rudy, and his part is now stuck behind Wayne Whitmore through the first sector. Steve Bolger up 3 spots. He's battling hard with Turmo through Dunlop here. Very, very risky. Turmo almost onto the grass, which is not where you want to be. And up on the curb there, first part of Digna. But Luke Joyner still leads with Brendon Ross right in behind. Termo's had a good exit though, out of second digna. So not quite close enough. Oh, big lock up for Brendon Ross. He had a bit of a slide on there, and Luke Joyner as well, running a bit wide. And it looked like Ross had a bit of a better exit, but he's needed a bit of a slipstream to get a run on Joyner. Now he's going to try and go the long way around the outside at Spoon. I don't think he'll get it off, pull the move off, but as I say that, Luke Joyner early on the brakes and Ross into the lead, but a big nudge there. So Joyner very late on the brakes, the second part of Spoon, and around goes Brendon Ross, and that sends him back to P6, and well, Ricky Slick's right there behind him. So what has happened to Ricky Slick? He was side by side, as we see on the replay, with Wayne Whitmore coming into Spoon. So this is the first part of it. So he has lost out somewhere here. Oh, a bit of contact there. The first part, not too bad. Then he's tried to send it on the second part. So he's almost replicated what Luke Joyner did almost in the round he went. But in the end, though, he's right behind his championship rival. But down in 7th place behind Rudy, who Brendon Ross is going to try and get past now. But with the slipstream, Ricky Slick has stayed in the slipstream, and now that's moved him in front of Brendon Ross, and Brendon Ross has lost out to both of them there. Well, he has got past Rudy in the end, but he's lost out to Ricky Slick, so Ricky Slick timed that perfectly. Shades of Spa 2000 between Hackett and Schumacher there. We've had Wayne Whitmore go around at turn 1/2 there. So let's just see, has he run into the back of someone, or is he just, he's run wide there over the curb on the Astro again, and yeah, he didn't straighten the wheel. He needed to get onto that asphalt there, but he didn't do it. Around he goes. He's down in last. Oh, as you see, Brownie now spinning like a top. He's gone around, and Rudy's gone around again, and he's into the barrier there at Dunlop. So what's happened to Rudy here? Oh, he's just not put enough steering lock in, and he's got on the grass, which you can't do there, and he's just overcorrected, and around he goes. So he's now behind Brownie. It's now Brendon Ross and Ricky Slick battling it out for 4th place. They're 1.5 seconds behind Timo, so they're not far off the lead. Luke Joyner still holding the lead. He's defending quite hard against Steve Bolger and Termo, but he's doing a good job at the moment just to play spoiler, but he's got a long way to go if he wants to hold onto that lead. Behind them though, Ricky Slick is now onto the back of Termo, and he's actually dropped Brendon Ross just a little bit. And we've got Steve Bolger and Joyner side by side, and now, well, Bolger pulling into the lead prior to 130R there, and he'll be hoping to break away, because if he can break away now, it'll buy him time for later in the race and a bit of gap between himself and, well, obviously Ricky Slick and Brendon Ross, who've been very quick, and there's a car around. I think that's Joyner. I don't know if there was contact, but Ricky Slick now looks like he's got a better exit out of the Casio triangle, and he's going to try and go around the outside into turn 1 of Termo. I don't think he's going to do it. Probably going to try and get him on the switchback. No, he's going to try and go around the outside. Termo sticking to the inside for turn 2 as well. It's going to compromise him a little bit, and it's compromised Ricky Slick as well. But Ricky Slick having a look up the inside of turn 3, but so it's better of it. But we'll just actually cut back. Let's see what has happened to Luke Joyner here. So was there contact, or did he just lose it? I'll just ride on board Termo here. Oh yeah, Termo gave me a bit of a serve there. That's not very good driving. And I guess it's probably a little bit of karma for the spin that Joyner gave Brendon Ross. As Termo a bit wide there, second part of Digna, and that might give Slick an incentive to send it up the inside, but he size better of it. Termo locks the brake into the hairpin, but looks like they had about an even exit out of the hairpin. In fact, I think Ricky Slick's just got a slightly better one. He will have the inside for the first part of Spoon, and he will take P2, and Brendon Ross immediately up the inside of Termo, and he will get it in the end, and he'll get the slipstream as well of Ricky Slick in front, so he should hold on to P3, even though Termo will have the slipstream of him, of Brendon Ross. Well, that's it. He's got double toe there for a split second. In fact, giving Brendon Ross a bit of a nudge, a bit of a bump draft. and in fact it's helped him quite a bit because he's now right behind Ricky Slick, and in fact almost running to the back. A big lock up there, big puff of smoke on the front right hand tyre, and a big slide coming out of the chicane there for Brendon Ross, and that's cost him quite a bit. So he had gained up all that time and then outbroke himself, going a little bit too quickly into that final chicane. Fastest lap 58.5 for Steve Bolger. But I reckon we'll see Ricky Slick edge closer. But there's not too much time left. 5 laps is a long time, but it's also not a long time, if you know what I mean. It's it can be a long time, but it can also be a very short time as well. Gap 2.4 seconds between Bolger and Slick is catchable. The amount of laps left. So approaching the first split now, and what will the gap be? Will the gap come down? Yes, it does. Comes in by 0.4 of a second. Brendon Ross is going with Ricky Slick. They are dropping Termo, who's now 1 second and probably just out of slipstream range. Behind them, Lovejoy not falling into the clutches of Wayne Whitmore. Termo once again falling a bit further back in the middle sector. Brendon Ross is sticking with Ricky Slick. Gap was 2 seconds the first split, and it is, it reigns pretty much the same, extended by a couple of thousandths of a second, or hundredths of a second I should say, which is rather insignificant. But there is time for Ricky Slick to close down the gap, but he isn't going to want Brendon Ross in behind him though. They do battle. It will give Steve Bolger the lead, which Ricky Slick probably will mind a little because he does want to win this race in the championship. But for Brendon Ross, he has to make a clean pass and get past Ricky Slick and then get after Steve Bolger and hope that Steve Bolger holds on for P2. So Ricky Slick did lose out a couple of tenths in that final sector, but overall he was 3 tenths faster than Steve Bolger on the last lap. And obviously Brendon Ross, as you saw, fastest lap of the race, a 58 dead, 1 minute 58.000. So good 7 tenths faster than Steve Bolger and 4 tenths faster than Ricky Slick. Ooh, and a bit of a lock up there and wide for Brendon Ross, and another big slide out of Digna too, so that's compromising. Was getting very, very close there, but probably pushing just a little bit too hard as Ricky Slick once again is locked up into the hairpin and then drifting it through the hairpin. He got the gap under 2 seconds. In fact, it does look a little bit closer than that now, but I think he would have lost a little bit of time with that sliding and lock up at the hairpin there. He's about 2 tenths, almost, 3 tenths faster than Steve Bolger in the first split, but I think he's lost out just a little bit. We'll see as they get to the split line. Was 1.9. No, he actually gained half a second, so there you go. He's getting closer and closer. This is the closest battle on track at the moment. 1.3 now between Bolger and Slick, so it is coming down. If Ricky Slick does manage to win this race and Brendon Ross finishes in third position, he will be the champion. So Brendon Ross, if he wants to extend the battle to the final round, he needs to get in front of Ricky Slick, or hope that Ricky Slick doesn't pick up the victory here. But see, when Ricky Slick and Steve Bolger do battle, which looks ominous. greatest line through Digna 1 there for Ricky Slick, but it is looking ominous. If they do battle hard, it will give Ross an opportunity to close the gap even further. Brendon Ross only 1 second behind Ricky Slick. Oh, and a bit of a slide there for Steve Bolger, and a bit of a slide on the exit for Ricky Slick. So I wonder that will give Brendon Ross a bit of encouragement, but Slick would have thought this was his opportunity, but he got too eager on the loud pedal, and that cost him a chance of making a move into spoon 1 and getting a clean breakaway from Steve Bolger. But he will be in the dirty air, but he'll also be in the slipstream of Steve Bolger now coming into 130R. And then obviously Casio triangle, or the final chicane. But Brendon Ross is right there to capitalise should these two tangle in any way. Turmeric 14 seconds behind, and he's got a 12-second gap over Joyner. Joyner 9 seconds over Whitmore, and Whitmore 8 seconds over Brownie, and then Rudy 50 seconds or so behind Brownie. So the gap 8 tenths of a second, Bolger just a little bit quicker through the final section, through the final chicane there. But Ricky Slick has been quite handy and reeling that gap in the first sector in particular. He's been consistently faster through the first sector than Steve Bolger throughout. The last lap, Brendon Ross purple in the first sector, but his middle sector, it's actually a little bit slower than Ricky Slick and Steve Bolger, so it looks like he had a bit of a slide on at the hairpin as well. His last sector wasn't particularly great either. Ricky Slick pushing hard, almost running a little bit over that rumble strip there. The Dunlop corner at turn 7 there. Now Digna 1 takes it better than last lap. Doesn't overcook it for Digna 2. Straightens his wheel out nicely and is close right up to Steve Bolger now. Half a second. In fact, put a bit of time on Brendon Ross at the same time as well. Now, doesn't want to get too eager on the loud pedal. Straightens the steering wheel on the throttle. Got a better exit. Slightly better exit, I reckon, than Steve Bolger. So he's not going in the slipstream, funnily enough. He's just sitting there. Looks like he's going to try and bide his time, force a mistake, or try and make the move to either 130R or the final chicane. I think Ricky's just going to be a bit patient here. He doesn't want to force a move that forces Bolger off the road, because if he can get the move done cleanly and not balk Bolger, it'll help him by not allowing Bolger to fall into the clutches of Brendon Ross behind and give Bolger a chance, as he has a bit of a deep dive into the final chicane there, but not quite close enough this time. And if he does make that move stick cleanly and doesn't balk Bolger, it'll give him every opportunity to win the championship if Bolger isn't balked and can stay in second position. And Rick takes the lead. And Bolger on the grass just before the turn for turn 1. Don't want to do that. He's got a slide on at turn 2. It's going to balk Ricky Slick a little bit. And he's going to try and hold on around the outside. And he's going to do it. He is going to do it. So now, can Ricky Slick hold on to the lead? And can Steve Bolger hold on to second? But no, it's all closed up now. Ricky Slick looked like he's just edged away from Steve Bolger. Now, can Steve Bolger hold on to P2? Or can Brendon Ross force a way into P2 and at least take the championship fight until the final round of the championship? We've got yellows out at the Digna, and that looks like Rudy. Yes, it is Rudy, and Ross is around. Ross is around, and that is the championship, barring a mistake for Ricky Slick or Steve Bolger. So costly error. So there's Brownie off. It's or he had just gone off. It's taking the 2 there and slowing down to let Ross go, but yeah, Brendon Ross here on the replay. Too much curb, didn't straighten the steering wheel out. Got on the throttle just a little bit, and around he goes. And well, that is it, barring a mistake for Ricky Slick or Steve Bolger here. As we said, Ricky Slick has been the benchmark for the drivers out there in this development series. He's been excellent all series long. I do believe he'd won, I think, 4 or 5 races in a row. Oh, but he's made a mistake. He's made a mistake. Got on the grass at the braking zone. The final chicane there. Decides to just cut the chicane to hold the position there. He's frowned upon, but could say he didn't gain an advantage. But Steve Bolger is going to try and have a go. Shades of Suzuka 2005. Bolger around the outside. That is exactly like Suzuka around the outside. So Kimi Räikkönen slash Steve Bolger into the lead. But Ricky Slick isn't going to give it up because that is his championship right there in front of him. If he can just get back past Steve Bolger on this final lap, he will be the F3 Development Series champion at Automobilista Australia. But it's not going to be easy. He's going to have to contend, as you can see, with the understeer due to the aero wash. And Steve Bolger eager to steal a victory at the death. So it's all going to be, I reckon, about this hairpin. If Slick can just stay close as he is here and get a decent exit at the hairpin, it'll set himself up for 130R. In fact, he's got much better under braking at the hairpin. Bit of a slide for Bolger. He might even try and get the move done at Spoon. No, Sides is just going to wait. But I'm pretty sure we will see a move. These guys have 10 seconds over Brendon Ross, so they don't have to worry about him. Ooh, not the greatest run. Spoon for Ricky Slick, but he will have the slipstream. He's had an okay exit out of the second part, but he is a fair way back. But he will be right behind Bolger, I'd imagine, after 130R, and in range to make a late diving manoeuvre up the inside. So he's not quite close enough here at 130R. He's got the momentum though. Will he go for it? Bolger goes defensive. Now can Ricky Slick get him on the switchback? No, he's going to try and go around the outside. A little bit of a touch. Bolger goes around, but Ricky Slick will take the win and the championship, barring a stewards inquiry. But I don't think that was his fault, but Ricky Slick takes the win, and for now will take the championship. Bolger couldn't quite hold on that contact, unfortunately spinning him around. But he'll finish in P2, and looks like he's going to throw it into the barrier. Bang, up around. He goes. Brendon Ross will finish in P3. Termo in P4. Wayne Whitmore coming out of the final chicane. He will finish in P5. Luke Joyner's missing a front wing. We'll just go back and to have a look on the replay and just see exactly what happened. Alright, so here we go. Yeah, so very, very interesting one, that one, because obviously contact on that side of the tyre shouldn't have really sent Bolger around. Around he went anyway. So in fact, right on board Steve Bolger. Let's see how that happened on his car. No, I reckon he'd actually lost that on his own there. It didn't look like there was significant contact on his end. It wouldn't have helped, might I add. But it looked like he just gassed it up. His rear tyres had gone, and he'd gassed it up and around he went. So, very interesting ending to that. But provisionally, we've got our F3 Development Series champion in Ricky Slick. So, his fan base, after getting escorted out after one of his fans wanted to bring in a crossbow, he was managed to get allowed in after Ricky was able to convince the police to allow them in, obviously without the crossbow. But seen their driver claim the championship, at least provisionally, with that final race, final corner victory. Almost threw it away there. And then Steve Bolger there, second in the end. And then Brendon Ross dropping down with that spin at Digna 2 there at the end. Anyway, I would normally, at this stage, normally we don't do interviews for the Rookie Cup, but looks like the Discord channel has quote unquote fucked itself. So looks like there won't be any driving or driver interviews, which is a bit of a shame because I'm sure Ricky Slick would have given us a few words after claiming, at least provisionally, once again, the title. But yeah, all right. Well, that'll pretty much do us this evening. But we'll just go over what is coming up at Automobilista Australia. So I don't believe there is a TCAC round this Wednesday evening, but there is, I believe, a round next week. I cannot tell you because which circuit it's at, unfortunately, as yeah, obviously Discord being down, I'm not able to get that information, but there should be a TCAC round next weekend. I do believe we have a bit of a break in the Super 2 series, as it does run on the Supercars calendar, and for whatever reason, Supercars like having these massive 3 and 4 week breaks in the middle of this season to really keep the interest going. Through what has to be said a really enthralling Supercars season if you're a Scott McLaughlin fan, but if you like anyone else, well, tough luck. We do have the Touring Car Championship next week, next Monday. I do believe that is at the Adelaide circuit off the top of my head, but I can't remember exactly. Actually, I can actually go through some files and I should be able to find that out, but I do believe next Monday is the Touring Car Championship from Adelaide. So we'll just go through that. No, it is actually Guapore, my mistake. We raced there last season, so that should be an interesting one. So it's Guapore on July 1, so that would be next Monday, and then July 15, we have our little mini Australian leg where we go to Eastern Creek / Sydney Motorsport Park, where they'll be running at the Druitt layout. So that is the one where it's cut in half. So after I think it's turn 4 or 5 there, instead of turning right to go through that little infield section, they go straight and they have a little left-right chicane, and lap times will be about 55 seconds or so, minute long. And then after that, July 29, they return to Adelaide. They raced there last season where there was a controversial incident or two, but also some great racing. So hopefully that we have a repeat of the fantastic racing and not so much the controversial incidents. And then, of course, the final round of the Touring Car Championship on August 12 at, Interlagos with the Cafe Chicane layout. So obviously, that is where the final round of the Touring Car Championship will take place. Hopefully, we have a big field for that one. So, if you are interested, please obviously jump on to Automobilista Australia Facebook page, and there you'll find the relevant files, Discord, and all of that stuff. So, from me, Lewis Wedding, I hope you've enjoyed this evening's broadcast, and have a good one.